I will now promise Zureya that when that book is published again, and I think it's going to be soon, we'll have Israel at least in 5 voices, and she will be there. Because now that I've read her books, I know that she's a complete big shot, and that the inner world of people, of families, are just as important as the political ways of looking at things. And I'm very, very happy to be here again, because I met her 4 years ago in Mishkenot Shananim, and we had an interesting chat, which I think was the beginning of a friendship, and that's why I'm here again, because I needed to keep on talking with her and going deep in who she is and why she writes the way that she writes. And now, after reading her books, I think that at least four words come to my mind when I read her. And those 4 words are those 4 themes that I would like to share with you today and to go in deep into them. And it would be, the first one would be to talk about psychology, because that is what it's in her books. Literature, because she has just a special, very special way of putting the words, and her style is just absolutely unique. That flow of consciousness that sometimes gets us, makes us shiver, is just, and that it's words and words and words connected in a very poetic way to make paragraphs. It's a style just of her own. Nobody has. If you read her and you read another book, you'll know you're reading Zureya and nobody else. And of course, the feminine world. When we think of what she does, she speaks from the woman's standpoint of view. I even think, and you'll let me know if that is true, that most of your readers are women. Tell me, let's start with that. Tell me, is it true, or am I wrong, that most of your readers are women who really get moved by what you write and the way you write it?
Good evening, first of all, and thank you for this beautiful introduction. It's a pleasure and honor for me to continue that unforgettable conversation from 4 years ago. So you asked me about my readers. Yes, I think that most of my readers are women, but I have to say that in general, most of the readers are women. I don't think that it has to do only with my books. It has to do with literature in general, in Israel, but also in the rest of the world. I don't know how is the situation here, but I think that women tend to read more. But yes, I think it is. It's a bit more. It's a bit easier for women to identify with my characters. Most of my characters are women, even though in my new novel that was just translated into Spanish. It's the first time that I wrote the voice of a man, Avner, the human rights lawyer. And before I started, I was really shaking. I thought that it might be unnatural for me. And then, surprisingly, I started to write from his own consciousness, and I felt it is so natural. And I think it's the first time in my life that I could really identify with a man, and I felt a lot of empathy, and I realized for the first time in my life how difficult it is to be a man. I used to I used to be more aware of the difficulties of women than of men, and so writing about men taught me a lot. But I still haven't answered your question. Yes, I hear women in Israel and in Europe and all over the world telling me that I was writing about them, and it's a great privilege for me to become kind of a voice for women. And they tell me that they identified with the situations, that they even could feel that I described their own personal problems, and that I even sometimes help them to solve their problems, which of course gives me great joy and satisfaction. And yes, I think that this kind of intimate writing create an intimate dialogue with the readers and between the readers and their own lives. And yes, women tend to be more open to this dialogue, but still I have few male readers too. I can count them.
Well, we have many males in this
Yes.
room, so we have to speak to them too.
In Mexico,
No.
the situation is much better.
Yes. Well, I can think while I listen to you. I think of this book, which is translated as Las Ruinas del Amor, but you put the name, which was Tera. That was
Yes.
the original name.
Yes.
Okay, and I can think that this book that has to do with a divorce, I can think that women and men can get completely involved. And
Yes.
I don't know what was the feedback after you wrote it, but while I was reading it, I could think of many women I know that if they had read maybe a couple of lines of this book, they would have not acted so impulsively, and would have thought the way that they were taking their whole family, themselves and their kids, into new homes, new situations, just bringing all the family with their same troubles into a bigger trouble. And I can think that maybe people can feel, after reading this book, a stronger help, and I'm going to say something ridiculous, than going to psychoanalysis. They can believe, they can stop and think maybe for a second before going on.
Yes.
So those things happen, or they don't happen?
No, they do. They happen, and even a bit too much, because now you won't believe what I'm going to tell you, that after this book was published, and I thought that I was writing a kind of balanced novel. You know, I never try to beautify anything, and all.
Well, you don't.
No, I don't, not at all. And all my books are quite difficult, and I deal with crisis, and I can explain why later if you will be interested. But while writing this book, I thought that I tried to show the whole aspects of this situation, and that I'm writing quite a balanced story about the process of divorce. That, of course, it's not easy. No one thinks it's easy, but it has its beautiful moments too. And after the book was published, a few days later, I started to get very strong reactions from readers, and I realized that it became like a present book for couples who want to divorce. And I heard from mothers that brought it to their daughters who already left home, and they read the book and they immediately came back to their husbands.